This is part 2 of our midlife lecture. Now we're going to talk about cognitive development. So we're going to talk about practical intelligence. This is the range of skills related to how individuals shape, select, or adapt to their physical and social environment. In other words, can you solve real-life problems? So some applications of practical intelligence. Practical intelligence is linked to post-formal thinking. Remember we talked about this. It's a stage of thinking beyond formal operations from Piaget. Adults can blend emotion with cognition in approach to practical problems. However, they tend to approach emotional problems differently than non-emotional problems. So for late middle-aged adults, highly emotional problems are associated with more passive dependent and avoidant denial approaches. So they either just kind of go along with it or they deny it and avoid the problem. But problems related to daily living and home management that don't have high emotions are dealt with using problem-focused strategies. Therefore, the type of problem solving used depends on the type of problem. So the mechanics of intelligence. So intelligence kind of has two parts. Okay, so the mechanics is the first part of a two-component model of lifespan intelligence that's grounded in the dynamic interplay among the forces of the biopsychosocial framework. We learned about the biopsychosocial framework way back at the beginning of the semester. So the mechanics of intelligence are more of the fluid intelligence. Remember we talked about fluid versus crystallized intelligence? So fluid is associated with mechanics. It is the architecture of the brain, the organization of your central nervous system, what's actually biologically going on in your brain. This is linked with gradual loss of brain efficiency with age. So we see the fluid intelligence decrease with age as the brain ages. The second component is the pragmatics of intelligence. These are the aspects of intelligence reflecting crystallized intelligence. Pragmatics are associated with bodies of knowledge that are available from and mediated through a person's culture. So the pragmatics are associated with your acquired knowledge over time and your cultural knowledge. At the psychological level, knowledge structures change as a function of accumulative knowledge over time. So as you learn more things, you're constantly changing how your brain organizes that knowledge. Okay. So this again is crystallized intelligence, and it is driven by sociocultural forces rather than the architecture of your brain. So at the sociocultural level, knowledge structures are influenced by how we are socialized, given the historical and cultural context in when we are raised. So people in different cultures and different time periods will have different knowledge and different skills. So those structures influence the way we implement our skills, the way we solve problems, and the way we conduct our lives. So the idea here is that the mechanics of intelligence and the pragmatics of intelligence work together to form our overall intelligence. Mechanics is universal, it's biologic, it's genetic, it's not about content. Pragmatics is content-rich, culture-dependent, and based on experience. So this graph over here represents the components of intelligence over the lifespan. So you can see both forms of intelligence increase until about the age of 25. Then pragmatics, the crystallized intelligence, stays the same, or if you're continuing to learn, it increases as you age. But mechanics that are associated with the structure of the brain fades as your brain ages and becomes less able to process information. So even though our body of knowledge increases as we age, our ability to solve problems decreases. So lifelong learning, becoming an expert. Aspects of intelligence that come from experience grow over time as we gain new experience and gain new knowledge. So we become experts in different things, maybe in interpersonal relationships, in cooking, in sports, in your job, in your hobby. Okay, as you learn, you become an expert. So an expert is defined as someone who is much better at a task than people who have not yet put much effort into it. So we become expert in some areas, but remain novices in others. You can never be an expert in everything. So novices versus experts. Novices are people who are brand new to a field. They don't know almost anything about it yet. And they want to get to a satisfactory performance level as quickly as possible. They just want to get to the point where they can do the task well. Experts tend to build up a wealth of knowledge over time. They have alternative ways to approach the problem, etc. Experts don't always strictly follow the rules the way novices do. They've learned tricks, shortcuts, they're more flexible and curious about their field. There's a downside to being an expert. One bad thing about expertise is that you may lose the ability to explain how you got to a particular answer. You show an intuitive approach to your field and you sometimes can't explain what you're doing. You know what you're doing so well, your brain just leaps to the correct answer or to the right solution, and you can't explain to a novice how you got there. So they get really confused because they don't understand how you found your solution. So experts may have a hard time teaching novices, but they can teach someone who already has some knowledge and experience. So think back to Vygotsky and the idea of scaffolding and ZPD, the zone of proximal development, that says that we learn best from someone who is just slightly more skilled than us. So someone who is a true expert in the field has a really hard time teaching someone who is brand new to the field. Over the course of our lives, we have to deal with changing information. So in many fields, information and technology change rapidly, and workers have to keep up. They have to keep learning. Many professions now emphasize continuing education and training, and some workers may have to obtain continuing education credits in fields such as medicine, psychology, auto mechanics, any field that is rapidly changing. If you work in that, you might have to keep getting educated, keep getting new certifications to show that you're keeping up to date with the new information. So let's talk about how adults learn versus children. Adults and children learn in different ways, and here's some. Adults have a higher need to know why. They want to know why they should learn something before undertaking it. They don't just learn it from the joy of learning. They want to have a reason. They need to know the importance of the material. Adults also have more experience. They enter a learning situation with more and different experience on which to build, and sometimes that experience can help them learn something faster. Adults prefer real-world problems versus abstract problems. Adults are more willing to learn those things they believe are necessary to deal with real-world problems rather than hypothetical situations. And they're motivated by internal factors. Most adults are motivated to learn by things such as personal satisfaction, something that comes from within, intrinsic motivation, then external factors like a job promotion or a raise. All of this means that teachers need to take different motivations and learning styles into account when thinking about how to teach adults. We need to teach adults in a different way than we teach children. Next, we're going to talk about personality. The 5-factor trait model is pretty popular and pretty accepted. It's a personality theory aimed at describing adults. You may have heard it. It's called the Big Five. So these are personality traits supported by research. A lot of research has been done in the Big Five, and it's held pretty true cross-culturally. So on all of these Big Five personality traits, you could be low or high or somewhere in the middle. A good way to remember the Big Five is the acronym OCEAN. O-C-E-A-N. Okay. So the first is openness to experience. So people who are high in this personality trait have vivid imaginations and dreams, appreciation of art, strong desire to try anything once. They're naturally curious. They make decisions based on situational factors instead of absolute rules. People who are low on this personality trait are more down to earth, uncreative, conventional. They're not curious. They're very conservative. Second is conscientiousness. So people high on this trait are hardworking, ambitious, energetic, scrupulous, persevering. They really want to do a good job. They pay attention to detail. People who are low on this trait are negligent, lazy, disorganized. They're late all the time. They're aimless. They don't really pay much attention. They just don't care that much. Third is extroversion. People who are extroverted tend to thrive on social interactions. They like to talk, take charge easily, readily express opinions and feelings. They like to keep busy. They seem to have boundless energy, and they prefer stimulating and challenging environments. People low on this trait are reserved, quiet, passive, serious, emotionally unreactive. You may even call them introverts. Next is agreeableness. So high is being accepting, willing to work with others, caring, you're very agreeable. Low might be ruthless, suspicious, stingy, antagonistic, critical, irritable. Kind of someone that most people just don't like to be around. And the fifth is neuroticism. So this is the tendency to be anxious, hostile, self-conscious, depressed, impulsive, and vulnerable. People high in this may show violent or negative emotions that interfere with their ability to get along with other people. People who are low on this are calm, even-tempered, self-content, comfortable, unemotional, hardy. So these are the big five. And again, you could be high or low or somewhere in the middle of all of these. But these 5 factors have been researched a lot, and they show up in at least 50 cultures. Okay, so trait stability. Are these personality traits stable over time? The traits tend to stabilize and plateau around the age of 30. And personality takes on 2 forms, adjustment and growth. So personality adjustment is developmental changes in terms of their adaptive value and functionality, such as whether one can function effectively within society and how personality contributes to everyday life running smoothly. So you may have to make some adjustments to get along with people to keep your life moving smoothly. Personality growth is ideal end state, such as increased transcendence, wisdom, and integrity. So some research says that personality stays the same as you age, and other research says it changes. So which is it? Well, most likely personality across adulthood does not change unless special circumstances or environment make it change. So we kind of stay the same until we're forced to change. So maybe getting married, having children, you get comments at work and you have to kind of change your personality to get along better at work, etc. So we tend to stay the same until we have to change. And we will continue this in the next video.